A very warm welcome to this third episode of Talking About My Generation, or TAMG as we call it. I'm Indrajit Gupta, co-founder at Founding Fuel. The Mulls, Harsh and Damodar are back after a week's break to pick up the threads on what promises to be a riveting session. Our concept of entertainment has undergone a dramatic change in the past few months of the lockdown. I'm guessing most of you have already read Harsh's interesting and thoughtful column, which was published in Founding Fuel. And it also had Damodar's views embedded in that piece via an audiogram. In this evening's conversation, both of them will build on the theme of entertainment in the post-COVID era. And they will engage with the questions and comments that all of you will no doubt share. You've been a wonderful audience, and we look forward to interacting with you. So do keep the questions and comments coming in. Before I invite Damodar and Harsh, I do want to let you know that I have some important news to share about our show, TAMG, at the end of this evening's show. So do stay tuned for that. And now, without much ado, let me welcome Damodar and Harsh. Hi, Damodar.
Hi, Ajay.
Hi. So how does it feel to be back after a short break?
Good, refreshing, and excited about it.
Okay. Harsh, how are you doing?
I'm good, IG. How are you?
Good. You were away, I think, for the weekend with the missus. How did that go?
It was a nice trip, a nice break.
Great. So you have both Damodar and Harsh, I think, sufficiently recharged and raring to go. So over to you guys. Take it away.
Thanks for that introduction, IG, and a big welcome back to our audience. It's only fair that after our discussion on work in the last episode, we balance it out by talking about fun. And so this week's topic, as IG mentioned, is entertainment and the changes we're experiencing in how we choose to be entertained. You know, here in the US, my friends and I often joke about how the movie theater industry is being kept afloat by desis. And it's no secret that Indians absolutely love going to the movies. And we continue to do so, even when we leave India. I really miss going out with my friends for a movie, but now I don't know when next I'll feel comfortable going into a movie hall again. I want to continue watching films, but I'm not thrilled at the prospect of sharing a closed room with 100 strangers. So for now, entertainment for me is at home with movies and TV shows on Netflix and other streaming channels, and of course also video games. Speaking of which, Papa, how's your PlayStation experience coming along?
Hi, Harsh. And you will not miss a chance to tease me on anything. Yes, here is a PlayStation. But let me say in a fatherly voice that I am making encouraging progress on that front. The reality is getting a hang of it, getting my instincts to work at it is hard work though. For now, I prefer watching a movie. But this is such an appropriate time to have this discussion. Here in India, gradually malls and cinemas are opening. But even if they're open, like you said, I wonder if people would feel comfortable going there. That said, I hope the theaters make it through this crisis. We have so many other alternatives now, but for me, there is always something special about an outing with friends and family called movie going.
I completely agree. I think that sets us up nicely for how I want to approach this particular topic in our discussion. So let's take a look at it from two angles. First, as we discussed, I mean, if we are to see the shift become permanent in movie watching from theaters to sofas, will that change how we watch movies as well? And secondly, if we are to look beyond films, will entertainment continue to be a social activity, especially if we're all glued to our personal devices for everything from Netflix to gaming? I wrote in my column about how I've noticed some unique things in the way we watch movies at home today, even in my own behavior. And This is fair warning to you in the audience if you're a film purist, but I notice that very often I just don't finish a movie that I start watching. In fact, sometimes I have abandoned the film in less than 20 minutes.
Oh, that's okay. Why should you feel bad about it? Uh, y- if you don't like something, uh, and if you're not enjoying it, it's okay not to sit through it, isn't it?
But isn't this yet another example of how our attention spans are now shortening?
That Harsh may seem like an obvious explanation, but I think there is a deeper cause here. See, in a theater, uh, it's difficult to abandon a film. You don't want to disturb others in the audience.
Yeah.
Uh, when you're leaving, you will bother other people, and you paid money for the entire film. Your what shall I say? Your paisa vasool instinct also kicks
Yes.
in, and it makes you sit through the movie. But with Netflix, you paid for the entire library, and the switching costs are not there at all now, and you're just practicing your ability to make more choices. So I see abandoning a movie and jumping to another one. It's just like fast forwarding a song, or rewinding to see a scene on something that you like. Yeah, but it is changing. Yes.
That makes me feel slightly better. But I sorry to take us off discussion, but I can't give up this opportunity to get some great film and TV show recommendations from our audience. Get a recommendation that's not algorithmically generated. So for our audience, please let us know what is it that you've been watching while you've been at home. What films have caught your attention and TV shows, and definitely put them in the comment section. Especially if you think that I can sit through more than 20 minutes of it, that would be really great. So, Papa, if more people are not watching shows and movies through to the end, isn't that bad news for studios and filmmakers?
I won't call it bad news, just a little shift, because it's not that people are not watching content, or people are watching less content. It's just that they are flirting a lot more. Uh, exactly. If I make a soap, and this time I mean the bathing soap. If I make a soap, of course I want my every customer to always buy my soap on each visit. But in a supermarket where the customer has so many options, my soap has to work harder to convince the customer on every trip. In the same manner, films will have to work harder to convince the audience to stick on, and they will make the first 15 minutes more interesting and gripping and engaging, for example. So it's a shift in reality, just like in a supermarket.
I see that it didn't take long for the supermarket Wala to bring in a supermarket analogy. I like that
But
comparison
it
though,
works.
Yeah, I think that's why we see so many franchise films now, for example. Names like Avengers, Harry Potter, Mission Impossible, these are really strong brands, and the audience like the predictability that comes with these franchise films. But to go back to your point about exercising choice, does that mean we can expect to see more interactive entertainment, interactive films maybe? I know that Netflix has been experimenting with this format with certain choose your adventure type of shows where a viewer can lead the plot.
Harsh, isn't uh, that what video games are about? I've seen some of you guys, some of the games that you play with your consoles uh, look like what I might call playable movies.
Oh
You
yeah,
are you,
that's
you
true.
you you are shaping. You are in it. You are deciding how the game progresses forward.
That's absolutely right. And in fact, I've been playing a Star Wars game,
Ah,
which, of course, a huge started as a film franchise, but now an entertainment ecosystem, if you can call it that. And it does such an incredible job of bringing the movies to life. It's a playable movie essentially. I don't know if you remember, but my introduction to the world of Star Wars happened at a single screen theater in Chamber more than 20 years ago. And today, my friends and I, we get together online to play this game in that same universe. Um, And I don't think it's just us. Across the world, there has been a huge surge in gaming during lockdown, especially. But to go even earlier, gaming has been increasing in popularity. I find that some people are surprised when I tell them that the best selling entertainment products in the world are video games. So much so that the best selling video games make more money than even the biggest Hollywood blockbusters.
No doubt about that. So maybe this demand for interactivity in entertainment is a byproduct because more people, more youngsters are enjoying gaming, and the gaming has really been democratized by smartphones.
Yeah.
Majority of the games are played not with console controllers, but on mobile devices, isn't it? So youngsters will naturally want a similar experience in their movie watching as well. So that's where probably the thread comes from.
Yeah, but it's not just the youngsters, right? I mean, the majority of mobile gamers, especially, are older. In fact, I think the fastest segment of gamers is women aged 35 to 54. So while we have this stereotype of who a gamer is, it turns out that today all of us are gamers, right? Even for you, even before you picked up the PlayStation controller, you were playing games on your phone. I remember there was this one brick breaker game on your BlackBerry that you used to really enjoy. So it's
Yes, yes.
not a recent phenomenon by any means. But yeah, that behavioral shift towards interactive gaming is happening across all generations. And I think that brings us nicely to our second question, which is if now the majority of entertainment is happening on personal devices like our smartphones, does that mean we are going to get more isolated? Are we destined to lose those wonderful evenings of going to the movies together?
I can't talk with certainty about the future of movie theaters, but what I can say is we will continue to be social, even in our entertainment. Even the manner in which we consume it changes. The social element will remain, would be my bet, Harsh. You already mentioned one example, how you and your friends are playing Star Wars online together. As a family, we enjoy playing Scrabble together,
Yeah.
even though we are in different countries and different time zones. The only part of it that I don't like is you beat me more often than I beat you. But here we are, separated by distance and time zones. We are yet enjoying games together. And our smartphones and these new devices make that possible. And tell me, do you ever feel satisfied by a show or a movie that you watched until you've discussed with your friends or somebody at least?
That's a really good point. And you know, lately we've all been discussing Netflix's Indian matchmaking, and you know, I even though we didn't go to a theater together to watch it, in a way we did all watch it together, and by talking about it, we are able to maintain that social aspect, right? And in fact, now there are quite a few apps that do allow you to watch Netflix or other media together, even if you're on different devices in different locations. For me, one of the small joys of lockdown was when my friends and I would get together online and watch an old football or cricket match together. You know, we were missing being able to get together and watch live sports, and technology stepped in and allowed us to recreate those hangouts. To go back to gaming, most games now have a multiplayer or social feature. And it reminds me of this newspaper cartoon that I saw recently, in which a mother sees a child glued to his phone and says, Beta, why don't you go play outside with your friends? And the child replies, But mummy, I'm already playing with my friends. So why do I need to go outside? I can see that we're getting some great comments from our audience. I'm happy to see we're getting recommendations on TV series, on shows. For example, Anmol speaks about the loudest voice, which is a TV show. I see Dark of Netflix. I have seen it. I haven't seen the new season yet, so looking forward to catching up on that one. But another question for our audience: I'd love to know what kinds of games have you been playing recently? Whether it's on your own mobile devices, gaming consoles, or even analog like board games. Are you playing them on your own? Are you playing them with your friends and family? So please drop your comments below and do let us know. Papa, I think the TV industry has been quite innovative when it comes to including audience interactivity in their programming. I'm thinking about innovations going as far back as audience voting via SMS on American Idol or Indian Idol. Or even today, when every major sport around the world has a fantasy game that the audience plays side by side to the match broadcast.
Oh, back here in India, I think at scale, uh, KBC, a very popular show, found a lot of success using an app that involves its audience. You could play the quiz on your phone alongside the on-screen contestant, and people really loved it. So, in a family situation, uh, on the bigger screen, the family was watching, and on the individual screens, members of the family were playing their own contestant role and winning incentives and prizes. It brought in so much more interactivity. So in the same home, four screens were simultaneously consuming content for KBC. So those are innovation, and programs like KBC, sports programs like IPL reach most corners of the country. And with smartphones and cheap high-speed data in the post-geo era, it has just added to this mix, added a little more zing to this mix. More and more people are going to get used to this new interactive way of consuming the entertainment. So there is easy access to data, there is innovation by programs, and there is desire to make it shared and personal. It makes a very nice bhelpuri or jhalmudi, which is very tasty.
So does that mean it's curtains for movie theaters then?
Let's not be too hasty. Uh, the charm of a bag of munchies, as I mentioned in the audiogram also, movie theaters in India serve as a valuable public space.
Right.
Movie theaters are an escape. You go from your simple living surroundings into movie theater with people. Once people feel safe to return to these spaces, uh, I have a feeling we will see cinemas becoming popular again. May not be in that same identical form, but definitely some in some manner or the other. And film industry is very creative, and I expect the same from them as well. Uh, we have seen a few releases go directly to the streaming platforms, but the box office may continue to define the trends for some time, is my view.
Well, I for one will be happy to see movie theaters survive the pandemic. But yeah, you're right. I think from the industry point of view, it is a time for a lot of experimentation. Over here, just this week, Disney announced that it's going to be premiering Mulan, its latest big film, straight onto its streaming service. So for such a huge, the industry leader to take such steps is going to be, it's going to be interesting. We don't know how it's going to
Yeah,
shape up.
yeah.
We don't know how the audience is going to accept it. So let's see. But for now, I think I'm going to have to do with Netflix and microwave popcorn. Actually, I'm trying out. I found something interesting at the store yesterday, which is the
Wow,
Patel Brothers' masala popcorn. So for movie
lovely.
night tonight, I'm going to try that. But I still don't think it's a good substitute for the full filmy experience
Yes,
that you get in the theater.
yes.
I can see all of these comments coming in of the games that people are enjoying playing. Mario Brothers, Catan. I love Catan, and during lockdown, when I couldn't get together with friends, we found a way to play it online. Papa, you mentioned multiplayer Scrabble that we have been playing as a family, and it's got quite competitive. So yeah, I think the point about how games help maintain that social aspect within the entertainment, that we can all be on our devices, but we still choose to be entertained with other people. I think that thread will certainly continue. So let's pause here and take some questions. So I'd like to welcome IG back.
Thanks, Harsh. Thanks. Been a fun conversation, true to form. And what really makes this so much more interesting is all the comments that keep flooding in, right? And the comments and the questions. That's what really makes this show really special for all of us. And I just kind of pick up a few comments, which I thought would kind of provide some context for some of the questions that we might, ask you. So Shravan Bhatt joins us from New York, and he loved your column, Harsh, and he says, the point you make about less than 20% of viewers in the US watching The Irishman, right?
Yeah.
So he says that maybe the Indian cinemas kind of cracked the idea of an intermission. So Hollywood's producing 3-hour films without any break, and that's not going to work, right? Because we're all used to short. That was interesting. Meeta Dulab joins us from Joburg, and this is something that is interesting. Will drive-in theaters make a comeback, right? With old-fashioned roadhouses that we were long used to. So that's apparently, she says, coming up in South Africa a lot to attract patrons back. That's an interesting creative solution. I've read about some of the experiences in Italy, for instance, where they're actually offering a boat experience instead of watching the movie in the car. So you're happily socially distanced, but yeah. And I think Vijay Bhatt made the same point, Damodar, that you were referring to about escapism, right? In emerging markets and in markets like India, we watch movies as a way of escaping from the harsh realities of life in some ways. I have a question for the both of you, right, at this point. If you were to advise any of the multiplex owners in India, particularly, and in the US, Harsh, what is that one thing that you would advise them to do that might help get patrons back? Meeta has, of course, given some clues in what's working in South Africa. What would you say? Harsh, you want to go first?
I think something that multiplexes were experimenting with even before the pandemic over here in the US was a subscription model. As consumers, we love the subscription model. It has become a really strong incentive for us for everything from shopping to consuming content at home and so on. And the multiplexes in the US are under far more threat than in India, where they are still a booming business. So, but what the multiplexes here found, that offering consumers the subscription, saying you pay one fee and come in and watch multiple films, really seem to be working. I would like to see them continue to do that. I think it helps the consumer, because those of us who like going to movies really get to tap into that paisa vasool instinct that Papa mentioned. But from the multiplex's point of view, it brings in foot traffic, which means more popcorn being sold, more Coca-Cola being sold, and these are the high margin products that really make money for the multiplexes themselves. So I would like to see that taken further.
Interesting. Damodar, any thoughts?
Yeah, very interesting, Harsh, what you mentioned. It takes away the guilt from walking out of a movie because you paid for the entire library or an entire package. Actually, what I would say, and multiplexes in India are run by smart people. They're creative people. They will come up with, I would say, believe in the fact that a movie outing is a social act or a social ritual for most people. We don't go out to movies on our own, just by ourselves. So in fact, do more of it. Multiplexes come in various sizes. You can get a 50-seater multiplex. Offer it to me for a party where instead of sitting with strangers, I am sitting with my friends and families. I feel safer, and add in elements of a party to it. Make multiplexes more social. Could be one axis on which they can develop, but between multiplexes and the entertainment industry in India, they are the real creative people, and we are in for some nice surprises. I would like to believe.
Very interesting. Charles and Manvi, Madhusudan, have two questions, which Charles is asking, if you were a VC, Damodar, would you invest in a movie chain at this point in time? And if so, why? If not, why not?
Well, I'm a Marwadi first and a VC later. So at a price, everything is viable. At a price, everything is feasible. So I believe in the fact that the model may shift, but I believe in the core promise of a movie outing in India. I don't think that's going to go away. And these are good public spaces which are scarce in India. What I would do with what I would tell my investee firms to do with their model, I will not share here on the show. But I would say it's an opportunity to enjoy turning around the whole model.
Got it. Harsh, there are a couple of follow-up questions on the same theme. Manvi had raised this whole issue about why we need Christopher Nolan to get people back to the movie theaters, that whole large experience of grand production. And she's also asking if people, in spite of that, don't come back, what will replace the social connect that we're seeking?
So what I take encouragement from is that before the pandemic, we were seeing a huge surge in, and a lot of innovation, quite frankly, in the space of experiences. So, and these are public experiences, these are social gatherings, and so on. So I feel that movie watching, going to the movies fits into that larger spectrum. Will theaters, the way theaters exist, they need to change a little bit? Probably, yes. But yeah, as long as you have very creative filmmakers putting out the kind of content that audiences want to watch, Christopher Nolan, of course, is one of the best examples of that. The audience will continue to come. I think we still crave those social events, the interaction with other people. And more importantly, what this discussion was based on is being able to enjoy a piece of entertainment together and, of course, discuss it afterwards and really take it apart. So I think that part will continue. And content, of course, has a huge part to play in that.
Very interesting. I'm going to change tack a wee bit and pick up on something that both of you have talked about, audience interactivity, and how that rubs off on the artist itself, right? It's true for sport as well, right? There's a test match going on, and it's tough to watch it without the audience. I wonder how the players are dealing with it. I wanted to ask about stand-up comedy, which has taken off particularly in our bigger cities, right? And that's going through its own existential dilemmas at this point in time. What are some of the things that I know, Harsh, you have some experience in that as well. Do you want to kind of take a stab at what are some of the challenges there when you don't have a live audience?
Oh, yeah. And this is something that we've been, it's an interesting challenge because, so I host a monthly open mic here in New York, and during lockdown, we took the event online. And based on a couple of events and the feedback that we received, especially from stand-up comedians, we saw an upside and a downside. The upside is that by taking the event online, the audience size immediately increases. It is no longer restricted to just people living in New York City who have an hour or two on an evening to come see the show. Now we have people tuning in from many different places. So the performers appreciate that their work is now reaching a larger audience. The downside, and this especially affects stand-up comedians, is what you mentioned about audience interactivity, which you lose to quite a significant extent on an online medium. Stand-up comedians really feed off the energy of the audience. They often take cues from the audience, and being in the same room as your audience helps them often give direction to their own set, and they found that bit difficult. It's a lot more rehearsed and one directional in the online medium. So we're still experimenting with it, and let's see where it goes.
I'm sure there'll be interesting responses that will come up. Damodar, this is true for sport as well. Imagine Virendra Sehwag playing in an empty stadium, or a Sandeep Patil in our generation, right? Responding
Stepping back a little bit, whether it is stand-up comedy or live sport,
right?
It's watched more non-live. It's watched more by people at home. It's consumed more on their devices and the streaming channel. But it's created in a live environment. That makes all the difference. And it is, to me, it is as much for the audience as it is for the performer. Yeah. If I'm a sports person, and you mentioned Sehwag, or if I'm a stand-up comedian, the zing, the X factor, the magic that I can bring changes when I'm drawing energy from the live support from the audience. Even a show like this, it's far more innocent compared to the other things that we are referring to. But I think it's the edginess of live. The energy that comes from the fact that people are responding, people are commenting, and the whole thing is two-way conversation, adds so much to it. It will be consumed more after the show, but I think it's so much important for the quality of the content itself.
Yeah, that's kind of livened up things for us as well, to see the response, right? One of the challenges of media is that, and entertainment is that, you have no idea of how people are responding, and that's such a downer, right? So this has been fascinating. I'm sure there are more questions and comments that will keep flooding in. It doesn't end with this show. We continue this conversation with Damodar and Harsh on Slack, on the Slack channel. There's a link up in the comments section. Do try and kind of join. They both will be happy, and they've been extremely excited about engaging with all of you. So do come forward and join that chat. As promised, I do have some announcements to make, and I'll give you a sense. Next week, we have a new set of guests on our show. Santosh Desai, well-known brand consultant and the CEO of Future Brands, and a very well-known columnist as well. He and his daughter Pallavi will be in conversation, and they've picked a really spicy theme for their chat, and that's around starting up, right? Pallavi had set her sights on launching her own venture almost, I'd say, about 7 years ago. Santosh had serious reservations about her starting up, and just a month before the lockdown, Pallavi and her co-founder finally launched their new branded apparel venture called Creatures of Habit. So in the next episode of TAMG, next Saturday, same time at 7:30, watch out for Pallavi and Santosh as they surface both the passions and the anxieties, the highs and the lows around the idea of starting up, and how their conversations around it have evolved through, of course, their intergenerational lens. And I can tell you, based on all the practice and the preparation that's going on backstage, this is going to be really riveting and interesting. But before the live show, as we always do, Pallavi and Santosh will set up the theme for their conversation through a column and an audiogram. This will be published on Wednesday in Founding Fuel. So quick recap, watch out for the column and the audiogram in Founding Fuel on Wednesday, and do join the live show at 7:30 p.m. India time next Saturday, right? And if you haven't joined our Slack channel yet, this is a good time to do so. You can then get an opportunity to engage with Santosh and Pallavi as well. And finally, I have the last announcement. It's not as if the mulls are going away. We won't allow them to go away so easily. Both Damodar and Harsh have promised to be back at a later date. And in fact, one of them has agreed to provide a sense of continuity to this show. So Harsh takes over the role from me as the key new host, or as the Sutradhar, as Damodar prefers to call him, from the next episode onwards. So, and like Santosh and Pallavi, we have an interesting set of special guests on TAMG lined up for you. So make sure you don't miss out on all the fun. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to welcoming you back on Saturday. Keep the comments and the questions coming in on the Slack channel. I promise you it'll be fun, right? So with that, have a great weekend, and ciao, and hope to see you on Saturday again. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.